Welcome, Jean. I'm so glad you're here. How are you doing?
I'm so glad to be here, Terry.
Oh, it is an honor. So, and a joy.
It's an honor for
Welcome
me too,
week.
my friend.
Oh, well, we've been talking about this for a while and we finally got together and I'm so glad. And the timing is perfect right now, as usual. So, I just want to introduce you to everybody. This is my good friend and teacher, Jeanne Mayall. And Jean, there's
Former
so
teacher.
many things you taught me, but what I really remember is you said that you had a vision of you being the teacher and up on like either it was a dimension or a level or a mountain, and your hand was coming down and you were pulling everybody up, all the students that were going to be the next teachers. And and I don't know if I remember that correctly or say it correctly, but it brings a tear to my eye right now because I remember that.
Back in the mid 80s when I first discovered the whole psychic stuff thing, um, I got all these visions and really powerful visions. And one of them was a future vision of I saw all these people. It was I live in New England, and it was New York City in the water, and I saw people in the water, and they were flailing their arms, and they were struggling emotionally because water is a really powerful symbol of emotion and the unconscious, and they were struggling in the water, and all these helpers ran down to the shore and were pulling them out, like just literally grabbing their arms and flinging them up on the shore. It was kind of almost like a cartoon, the vision. And then um, I I looked upstate. I turned my head. I looked upstate, and I saw all these refugees, and they were yuppies back in the day. They were well heeled, and they had like briefcases. We didn't have microcomputers back then, and were walking upstate as if they were refugees. And somebody later said, I think you were seeing 9/11, maybe, probably, but it goes beyond that. It was because I kept looking upstate, and then I saw this cliff and a plateau above the cliff. And Spirit was talking to me. And I have to tell you, I wasn't like the kind of person that, would talk to spirit. I was fairly hard-headed and had a science background and a policy background and all that. But, I guess underneath it all, I was very spiritual. And the voice, and I looked up at the cliff, and the voice sort of implied that I had to climb that cliff, and also that I would guide people, which I wasn't expecting to hear. And I said to the voice, how am I going to guide people up that cliff when I myself don't even know how to get up there? And I'm not a guru. I'm not that kind of person. And the spirit said, other people will help you. You won't be doing this alone. And and then I got this image of us climbing the cliff, and there were, in some ways, people were above me, and some ways they were below me, and or to my side. And that's what I thought when I started finally teaching people intuition and started getting to know them better. And I started a forum, and people like you became leaders in that group. That's when I realized this is that vision coming true. It's a little different from what you're describing, but no, it's correct. It's that the students would become teachers. But what you didn't realize is that the students would become my teachers. And
Wow.
that's what happened. And it's
Yeah.
this diversity of people, and you know who they are.
Yeah.
And they all have different traits and different capabilities. And and together we have formed kind of a good a good form of leadership, I think.
I think so too. Everybody brings something to the table, don't they? Everybody has their own personality and their own gifts. Anyway, and so sorry to make you teary-eyed, but it's just it's
It's
one of
good.
my I bring this vision up in my readings with other people because I see it in my tribe, my meditation group, and a lot of my clients. And that this is what we're all doing. This is why we're here, to bring everybody else up. And that's one of the most important jobs we can do right now.
Yeah.
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 Somebody said to me, because this forum just automatically, spontaneously occurred to me, wasn't my plan, but I had, I started posting predictions, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And then as time went on, I posted them just as a teaching tool. I said, look, students, I'm gonna show you how to do predictions. And they're like, oh no, we can't do that. And I was like, yeah, you will. You'll be able to do it. So let's just do this guided meditation, and then we'll post what you get, and then you'll remember, because you're never going to remember all your visions if you don't write them down. And we'll put them up on this new website that I have, and then you can go and check them. Well, the students themselves, except for one or two, weren't as interested in that. They loved learning tarot and helping each other using tarot cards one-on-one. But the predictions were up there on my site, and the world started to take notice, which was a real shocker for me. And especially because I wasn't intending it as something to give to the world. It was a student tool, but they did, and they started commenting and commenting. And after a while, the comments got so long. I'm sure you've noticed this because you've done YouTubes where you let people have comments. They were talking to each other. And then somebody said, Jeanne, could you set up a forum? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. But anyway, I did. I got a developer and he put it up. And once that happened, a whole new thing started to happen, which was like me thinking, what's the purpose of this? Is this just like a bathroom wall where anybody can scroll anything, or a Facebook page? Or is this going to be something that would lift people up, like you said? And so over time, that's how I run that forum is, and I have these beautiful people, and you're one of them. Although you've got your own tribe now, and it's amazing, but they help lift other people up. And it's amazing how many people want to be lifted up. They don't want to just scrawl some or vent something. Sometimes they do, but they want to encourage each other as well.
Yeah. And that's how I found you. And I want to mention that we are referring to Jean's uh, website, jeannemayell.com, and it's a forum. You do, well, why don't you say what you do, because it's harder for me. I'll forget
Actually,
something.
it was only this week, after almost 10 years of this, that it was suggested to me that I write a mission statement and put it on the forum so that people would understand what we're trying to do. So I started thinking about it like, the forum is just a place, and it's got a million different threads.
Mhm.
And I don't know, there's like 70,000 posts now, and which isn't really that much, but I don't advertise. So, and I don't do too many interviews. So it's showing that people really are drawn to having this way to talk to each other. And, um, and we just try to get people to help each other. And I've likened it at times, occasionally, to we're all in a boat drifting, and we're out at sea, and we don't know exactly where the sea is going to take us. And we need positivity with each other. We need to 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 rally each other. And so not everybody gets that message, because unless you put it right up at the top of a forum, it disappears quickly with all the posts that people make. But occasionally I remind people of that. We're all in a boat together. Let's help each other. And there's so many people who come there who are really sensitive and who need encouragement and guidance. And I mean, then there's also parts of the forum where you can just post your dreams, or you can talk about whatever is going on. And when the pandemic came out, one woman who's a regular and one of the stars, she's really into health and nutrition. And so she noticed right away this looks like we were heading into a pandemic. So she opened up a pandemic thread, and that thing went to like 200 pages and thousands of posts. So some threads get more popular than others.
Yeah.
Political threads are very popular. Sometimes I have to actually close them to calm everybody down. Anyway, and then
No,
one of
absolutely.
the threads is predictions.
Yeah.
People can make random predictions. Like if you have something you had a dream or you have a prediction, you can post it there and people comment.
Which is huge. And that's how I found you is during the pandemic in the early stages.
Uh,
I was looking for answers and I was looking for a place that I felt had similar values to mine and similar ideas of what was happening too.
yeah,
Um,
go
and
together, don't they?
yeah, yeah, totally. And I remember the first time I came in and everybody was so welcoming and it was a lovely time. You also do the meditations.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean
yeah.
the prediction meditation or the Zoom Spirit of Light, Circle of Light meditation. I do two different things.
Well,
So
both. Yeah, I love the circle of light meditations, and you were doing those 3 or 4 times a week during the
now,
pandemic,
yeah,
which
it
is
started in the
wonderful.
pandemic and with once a week. It was someone's idea. Again, it wasn't my idea. A woman from the Northwest wanted us to all um, quietly just meditate at 9 p.m. Pacific each night or something like that. And I said, oh, I'll take this one and we'll do it on Zoom. So it's called the Circle of Light and it's a half hour and it's four days a week at this point, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at different times. And it's free. You just get the link from my site and show up. And it's really peaceful, and we do a loving kindness. We do a vipassana. And we learn to clear our minds and to be present, and then to send love and kindness. So that's one thing. And then there's the other thing I think you're talking about, which is how I guide people to get predictions, and which have a phenomenal amount of accuracy. And that's is that what you wanted me to explain?
I was thinking about the circle of light actually, but yeah,
Oh,
explain that too, because I love that there's two different meditations that you're doing there. Yeah.
yeah. So the circle is, um, I find for myself that going on retreats, mostly it's the Insight Meditation Society, which has a few places around the country. And I mean, it's founded by Americans who were in India back in the 60s. And Sharon Salzberg is a really favorite teacher of mine. And there are a few others. There's three of them, Joseph Goldstein, Sharon Salzberg, and one other I'm sorry, I can't think of. But so I've gone there on week-long retreats. I'm going to one in the end of March. And it's just, it really makes me peaceful and happy. And you learn a method and you can actually change your brain. And during the 70s, I mean, I'm sorry, during the beginning of this century, I was doing a lot of local classes and my most in intuition and the tarot, but the most popular class was called Change Your Brain, and it was about meditation and positivity and how it can actually rewire your brain. So, the circle of light is like that. It's very short though. It's just a 25-30 minute meditation, but you're learning a practice of being present in your body. And and that's just so healing. It's extremely important for your health. And also, the more stressful you find the world to be or your life to be, the better this is a really good solution for calming down. And then we do what's called loving kindness, which is the Buddhist, the Pali word, Pali is the ancient language of the Buddha, is metta, M-E-T-T-A. And so, people will say in metta, they'll go like this, meaning in loving kindness. So I just say this meditation out loud, and everyone is meditating and taking these thoughts and intentions into their hearts. And it's really powerful. You do it for yourself, and then we do it for loved ones. We can even do it for people we don't like, which is very powerful.
Yeah.
And it really disarms you and disarms them in your eyes. If there's somebody you're afraid of or somebody you really dislike, and you send loving kindness to them, you start to see them, and they don't become someone you're afraid of anymore. You see where their fierceness comes from. And so that's very powerful. But a lot of people just like to stick with their loved ones. And then after that, we do the whole world, the whole world. And we focus on various places in the world and various people who need it. And then after that, I go for all the animals and the plants and the trees and the oceans and the whole earth. And we form a circle around the earth. So and we send love and kindness to just about everything. Most
And
people feel so good afterwards.
yeah, and it's a group effort, and that's huge too. I feel like that it's the entire group and the vibration that everybody brings, all their little differences or big differences, whatever they are. It makes a huge group. I started doing that with you during the pandemic, and I'll tell you what, it changed my vibration, and it does.
Terry.
Oh,
You do, you really do. I'm glad. I'm glad it helped you.
yeah, it was huge, and I feel like it does that for so many people. So let's talk about you and give everybody some background. You've been on the channel before, but it's been a little while. And because you have an interesting background in that you have a lot of science, you have a lot of um, um, well, Harvard, for instance, degrees from Harvard.
Likely place, yes.
Yeah,
Somebody
yeah,
who's doing what I'm doing. Yeah.
yeah.
I grew up in a very traditional way in community and education. And so that led me to want to explore. Um, I just wanted a really good credential, basically. I started out as a psych major, but we were studying Skinner at the time. It was popular at the time, and Skinner is just like the epitome, the opposite of what I was really interested in, which was humanism. And um, and so I switched over to literature and English literature and poetry, and I just said I'm going to learn everything I need to know about human nature from literature. So to heck with the psych department. Later, I came back to psychology because it's changed now. It is more humanistic. And anyway, I went to work for a think tank because it was just what was available for a professional job in Cambridge, Massachusetts, because I lived there. And um, and so that milieu was very science oriented, or a lot of economists and MIT and Harvard, and so I kind of gravitated that way, and I did not really think about psychic stuff or intuition at all. I was extremely intuitive, but I didn't know it. I just thought that I saw things and could boil them down quickly to something. Well, it wasn't really boiling down, I learned later. It was intuition. It was an instantaneous image of what's true. And and so I ended up, um, I learned a lot in that place. It's just funny. It's just so strange because what I care about are people and their health and welfare. And I just ended up working on studies there, not because I chose, because they kind of choose you, on the Medicaid program. And I became a real Medicaid expert, which is interesting because right now Medicaid is on the block in Congress. And I got involved in that, and I went to work for the state of Massachusetts, and we had a really good governor. We had a man who was full of principles and wanted to help people. And And I guess just that psychic thing is what did it for me. It's, like I that's what I want to point out to people by telling you my background. When I went to a job interview at the state budget office with a very remarkable man who was running the state budget, who was interested in policy and how we use our money and how we help people or not, and he said, "What's your philosophy on healthcare?" I didn't have a philosophy because I was, really not really thinking that way. I just wanted to go work for the state so that I could not travel so much because the think tank, you're traveling all the time. And I just looked at him and I had this flash of light. And I said at the time, I just want you to understand healthcare was not a big issue the way it is today. It didn't cost as much as it does today. It was 1978. And I looked at him and I said, if we don't do something about healthcare costs, they're going to outstrip welfare. They're going to outstrip, people are going to be wanting jobs just for the healthcare, and which was a totally inane thing back then. And he understood all this. And he looked at me and he said, when can you start? And so I just, it was only later when I pretty much lost interest in working in government and became much more interested in spiritual stuff, helping people, and all this part of me really took over, really. And I know as a child that I was really like this, much more spiritual, not religious at all, but spirit and visions than I was the science side. But it just took a while to get there. And so I made the switch. I have a couple of degrees in public health, and while I was getting a master's in public health, I was very influenced by Henry Nouwen, who was a priest at the divinity school. And I wasn't into religion, and frankly, neither was Henry Nouwen. He became a priest just probably because he's Belgium, and in the day, that's what you did if you wanted, if you were spiritual. But he influenced me a lot, and he's now passed, but he is very well known, and he's written like literally 50 or 60 books that are highly regarded in the whole spirit world. So that's the story. And then I picked up a tarot deck at one point when I was really feeling like I just wanted to be me. And it was instant. I was good at it. And I was like, this works. This is real. And I don't know how it works or why. I do now, but I didn't then. And that's how, that was it. That was my new life. I feel lucky that I could do that, that I could just switch careers like that.
Yeah, and so lucky for all of us that you did. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
But I love that you're doing that, and I love everybody on the forum. And you have these read the future nights
Yes.
that I want to bring in because I think they're fun, they're interesting. And with that science background, when you get that reward, if you get a hit, it opens up those new neural pathways. You've got, the endorphins coming in. And yeah, it's exciting, but it's also calming for people to come to
Yeah.
and read about the read the future nights and read the predictions.
And Terry, you are one of the stars of
Oh,
that. Terry, to the audience, Terry can sit down, and she's very busy, and she can sit down and just start writing predictions by date, January, February, March, and and everybody's predictions they fit their personality. And
yeah.
you always make me smile. You always make me, and there's another woman who helps me. A bunch of them help me, but there's one who's really helping me, Donna, and she and I just laugh, though that's Terry's predictions. And you get a lot of hits. So it is a fun process, isn't it?
It is. It's fun, and it's fun to read everybody's predictions, and so many of us will get the same thing, but But sometimes they're localized, aren't they? Because we do a lot of Earth predictions
Right.
about
True.
political, Earth, people, international.
Technology. Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. The economy. They fit, and then global predictions, and they fit the person. Like there's a woman, Tanya W. is her alias, and she's out in the West, and she'll see a lot of like animal, bears and in her predictions, but also um, she sees a lot of national and international disasters. It's just a thing, and volcanoes and all that. So that's one person, and then another person um, tends to see more political stuff, and someone else is more like really good at guided messages, like angel messages to everybody. So there's another woman who's really good. There are two women who are really good at more international, outside of the US.
yeah.
And one of them's they both live in Canada, but one of them is married to a man from South Africa. So she she's got a real international viewpoint, and we need more people like that because I personally tend to see more American stuff and
Sure.
Australian too, a little bit Australian. So it is good that we have all these different specialties.
Yeah, it is. And it's remarkable how many predictions come true. Um,
Right. We have somebody who now people, that's the great thing about having a large group of people following you is people volunteer. And there's a woman named Lenore who is a retired librarian, and she sends me a list of hits every week. And I post it on the website. She posts it in the forum in a hits thread, and I post it on the main page in the website. And I mean, we have like 1,200 hits a year. It's just, and we would have more if we had the time to really research everything. Going back 10 years, I mean, there we get hits things that we saw 5, 10 years ago to the month.
I've
It's
seen that. You
it's
just had
remarkable.
one this week, I think, that I was reading.
Oh, what was it?
I can't remember, but it must have been
Like an
15
older one?
years old or something. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to go look. There's so
Yeah.
many, it's hard to keep up with it, but I do end up posting them all in one place. And um, like I have 2024 hits, and now we're doing 2025 hits, and you just go and look. But again, I need people to help, like look at the predictions and then say, oh, I know what that is. That happened already. And so that's really good. I know I just got one recently, but I haven't had time to post it, and I can't at the moment. I'm blanking out on what it was. It was an old
Yeah.
prediction. But
Well, and there's a lot of you saw the climate change pretty early on too.
yeah, that was how what got me started with predictions in the first place. Was I'm a Taurus. I care about the earth. I like to be around trees and hike.
Yeah.
And my father was Canadian, and we spent time up in the wilderness as kids in Quebec. So originally, that's what politicized me was concern about the environment. And I was reading various, climate scientists back in the day. And there was one climate scientist who I knew was an intuitive. He was a scientist, James Hansen, but I knew he was right. And I read some of the stuff. I have a hard time reading the technical stuff that he writes, but you get used to it after a while. But mostly I would read what he knew how to put things in English. And also there's a lot of science writers, and everybody was saying that James Hansen was too extreme in what he was seeing coming. And I looked at it and I was like, it's not extreme enough. I just know this. It's like that thing with Medicaid, And and at one point, The Atlantic, which is a very pretty intellectual journal from where I live, from my area. They did a front page story saying that there would be only like a few centimeters of sea level rise by 2100. And I was so furious. And of course, the truth is we don't know what will happen, but I knew what would happen. I knew it was going to be much, much more than that. I actually called the editor because I had written an article for them years ago, and I said, how could you? How could you put that on the cover? Anyway, uh, so yes, and so Hansen has been right, but he's more conservative than I am. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm reading his stuff is telling me what's going to happen. What I was getting was when, timing. And like I remember I was sitting in a kayak in Quebec on a lake in 2015, and I suddenly heard the word surge, surge, surge. There's going to be a surge. And climate change is exponential. In other words, it is increasing at an increasing rate. And that's really important to understand. And at some point, it will be surging so quickly that we'll be seeing like, I mean, we'll see 10 feet of sea level rise in 1 year at some point. Now, that's hopefully a long way off, but I could feel the surge, and that is indeed what happened. Indeed, it did. And so I guess when you love the earth as much as I do, then you sense it more.
Yeah.
Could that be it? And that's what got me into politics, because I really didn't care about politics much, but who gets elected determined whether we were going to do anything and in environments. So that, I don't want to get into politics today because it's too dark a topic. But although I will say that my focus now in the US is for us to find, I mean, on the topic of politics, is for us to find a path forward, a path of hope and a path of strength. And that's about it.
I love that. Yeah. Do you want to bring up? I know you've got the prediction page up on the.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you want to show that, that
sure.
would be lovely now,
Okay.
and let everybody see what it looks like, and because it's
Sure.
easy to read, it's easy to
Yeah,
go
so there's a
in.
lot of predictions here, and it's massive. And every time we do this, and we post on this page, um, you can see every time we give an awful lot of predictions. So you can see the message here, and then it just goes on. And now that's just going to predictions made in May, but we've been doing thousands of predictions going back in time. So, and I'll put in the hits that we're getting. So you click on these things, and you'll see what we've got that are hits. But here is like the latest. We're going to do another one next week, on Monday, and we'll be posting it soon. So this is January 22nd through, which is the last one we did. You can see it says latest world predictions. And I don't want you to be fooled by how recent they are. Some people think the most recent predictions are the only good ones. Sometimes the older predictions are better because they work, and we don't have the same, like, we're not as close to the topic 10 years ago or 5 years ago as we are now. And so it can skew our view. But we still get a lot of, so for March, so I divided them up by politics, people. This is kind of like pop culture, and it isn't only US, but it's mostly economy, um, um, health, science, and technology. And global means just not the US, and earth and climate. And sometimes earth and climate can be very long. Sometimes we really focus on it. So, and there's probably something from Terry in here. But I can't really. And then so that we do the same for April, and we go on through on and on in May. Sometimes, so what Lenore does is she puts all these into a Google search and finds hits. And so I don't know if that is helpful to you. Um,
It is.
our Earth and climate predictions have been really remarkably accurate. And we've had really warm New England's for the last several years, but we were pretty universally predicting it would be freezing cold in New England, and it has been really, really cold and like shockingly cold, just the coldest winter. It's finally getting above 40 in the last couple of days. But so somebody asked me, like, why do you think the Earth predictions are so good? And I think it's because we're more objective when we make Earth predictions. And I think the Earth is a little more objective than, I think it's more set on course than, say, politics or popular culture, where people are constantly shifting and changing, and it's difficult. It's a little more difficult to predict.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, because there's no personality. Well, she has a personality, but it's
She
benevolent.
sure does.
Yeah.
In fact, I can remember in 2014 stopping when I saw the moon one night, really big, big moon on the horizon. And I remember pulling my car over and looking, and I wrote a whole post about it. She said, it was the Earth speaking, but the moon was what I could see. You are just fleas, she said. You are just fleas. Don't think you're gonna like wish me to do one thing or another. I'm gonna do what I do. And
Yeah.
so don't mess with Mother Earth.
Right. Well, she's shaken us off a few times, I think. So, yeah, no worries there. We've done that before. Um, well, I love this. And um, can you give us like we're almost at an hour already, which I can't believe.
Yeah, I
But
know.
I knew this would happen once we started. So I hope you'll
Okay.
come back soon. But can you give us a prediction about the future that you feel is meaningful to everybody listening?
Hmm. Um, well, I could say something about climate change.
That would be
Then I
lovely.
could say something about the political situation in the US. Um, I'll start with the last a second. I'm hopeful for anyone who is worried about the what's going on in the US, um, that we're kind of at the last gasp of a very negative type of male dominated energy. And I think that it and I have seen that for a while, and that the energy would get very dark, and then we would begin a more matriarchal age, actually, which doesn't mean that men aren't included in leadership at all. It's just the energy of the mother, of caring. And so I would say, I'm not going to give dates, because I think giving dates on something that is everybody is like depending on can be toxic for people if that date comes and goes and they don't get what they were expecting. I think that just want you to know that light wins. And and um and I feel like certainly I feel pretty sure that by the end of this decade, if not a little earlier, we emerge more in the light. And it's just we need to learn um, some lessons, I think, about um, what it means to be inclusive to everyone, and that we are all connected. There's no one can deny that. They may try, but it isn't true. We are all one. And so that will dominate ultimately. That's my belief. I also think the US is going to be battered and and suffer as a world power, and economically and in the eyes of the world. And it's going to be a long way to get wherever we're going to get. But that's okay. I'm happy if we can just become a more caring culture, and, and I believe it will happen. As far as climate change, now, I mean, you can go on my site and you'll see very specific predictions. I'm being a little general now because I'm looking at an overview of what we get. There'll be a lot of migration, huge amounts of migration in the 30s, the 2030s, like I would say 100 million. I don't know about numbers, but like unfathomable numbers of people moving because they've got to get away from certain parts of the country, of the world. And And that will happen. We'll be okay though. I mean, it's an okay. I mean, when I say okay, I mean, try not to imagine um, Armageddon, because I don't believe that is what we're facing. Um, we adapt, we adjust, we move forward, but we've got to get moving on it, of course. But anyway, I don't want to tell you that. I think most people know. So um, I would say that the 30s, I've been saying this for 10 years, that the 2020s involve a lot of debate and about what to do about climate change and a lot of battling. But the 30s, it's absolutely going to go on track. We're going to see that we have to do something. And I think people are doing something, but I think we'll become more unified. And I'm really looking forward to that time. Hope I live long enough to see a really sustainable world. That I've always seen the timing of things, and the timing is that the 30s will really move forward. And I also have seen the young people, the people who are now like in college, that age and younger. They are going to really help this world. I feel like they're going to be a force of light and good, rising up.
Yeah.
So anybody who's got little kids, um, good for you. I think they're going to do a lot.
I do too. I feel like they came in knowing, and I feel like they're all remembering. Maybe not every single one of them, but so many of them are in the flow. Their fluidity, whether it's gender or um, being neurodivergent, just they flip that switch that they can go into science and they can go into intuition at the same time. So,
Yeah,
yeah, beautiful. Well,
I like
thank
that.
you so much, Jean.
Welcome.
I
Real
loved having
pleasure.
you here. And yeah, and please come back soon. And everybody, the information will be on in the show description, but it's jeanmayell.com. You have classes
Oh yeah, I
available.
try to teach an intuition class once a year, like 13 weeks. Haven't done it this year. Got to get going on it. It's a real inclusive, all inclusive, including the ethics of using intuition, which is important as well. So yeah, I hope that I'll get to meet some of you.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right. Well,
All right,
thanks,
take care.
everybody.